All right, everybody, let me get a couple of screwdrivers. I got off a little bit early today due to inclement weather. So I'm going to keep going on this. I've got some parts in the mail already. I've got a new piston for this thing, and I've got the extra bearing now. I've got bearings, seals, gasket set, pretty much everything to rebuild this thing. Let me look real quick. Yeah, I've got a new old stock, new old stock 50 millimeter, 12 millimeter wrist pin, bearings, seals, gaskets. This is all going to be a OEM rebuild for this trade. Kind of happy about it. All right, I've pulled those two plugs right there. We're going to get this handle off. It's in pretty good shape, but it looks like it's been a little bit weathered. I don't think that's going to be any sort of problem, but I just don't like letting them set out in the back of the truck like some people do. My shed's a little bit on the cold side, so this one might be a little bit of a pain in my neck. There we go. Get out of there. There we go. So those are the plugs for the AV mounts. You got one up here. Got another one that I'm going to have coming up. It's a damaged crankcase on a 462 that's looks like it's going to be pretty fun. Right now I'm acquiring some of the parts for it. All right, there we go. Got it. Kill switch wires loose. And look at that nice grubby thing. I have said it before and I'll say it again. Try to blow your saws off. Try and do a thorough job. Get up under here. A lot of this you won't be able to do anything about, but there's really no need for the saw to be quite this grubby. And this is going to get, as with a lot of my other saws that I've rebuilt, this is going to get a serious bath. What that normally entails, much to my wife's chagrin, I take a 5-gallon bucket, I put a little bit of dish soap in there and some screaming hot water, and I will scrub every piece of this thing as best I can to get it clean and try to preserve it. I find that does the best for degreasing sawdust. It just gets everything nice and clean again. I'll let this sit overnight and air dry after it's scrubbed. Then I'll start the reassembly process with the new bearings, the new seals and everything. All right, what are we up to here? All right, so real quick, let's get this piston off of here. Of course, this one wants to be stubborn. Everything wants to be stubborn when it's cold out. There we go. Got it. All right. I've said it before, try to save a couple of those in case whenever you're doing your reassembly, you send one soaring across the shed, the shop, whatever you're doing, you don't have to hunt for it. You don't have to hunt it down. All right, I'm back. Finally got that thing out of there. I wound up having to drive that wrist pin out very gently and kind of delicately. That just was not fun, but it's part of it. There was nothing really wrong with it. I think I just need a new wrist pin bearing. The crank looks like it's in good shape. This saw has definitely had some use though. That's not a gripe, that's just a statement of fact. Let's get this off of here real quick. There we go. I think after this, depending on how my day goes, I might do a little bit more cutting on the squish band for my clone 460. Then after that, I might do a little bit more teardown on that 500i. I was tempted to do a video on that, but I've not done a 500i yet. I've done these right here enough that I can pretty well, I feel good doing a teardown, kind of showing how these things want to come apart. Except for like this one, not one to, there it is. All right, got to pull that that brake band out real quick. Got it, finally. Let's try not to do any severe damage to it. Yeah, that thing's been in there for a while. No kinks, no damage really to speak of. Outside of it just seriously needs a bath. All right, pull that little bugger out of there. It needs to be cleaned. I don't know if anybody's going to say anything. I'm not real worried about that crankshaft because I've kind of looked at it. It needs some emery cloth. Other than that, I don't really see anything significant. Again, this is a very good crankcase splitter you can get for about 50 bucks off of eBay, give or take. I think that's still the price. I prefer that as opposed to how other people do where they knock it apart with a hammer or something. It's just not as good. This right here, very little stress on your bearings, your crankcase, your crankshaft. All right, we're starting to have a little bit of stress right here. And I believe I know where that's coming from. Give me just a second, I'll show you this. Now we're going to take a punch right here. All right, that's all it really took right there. I'll leave the center or that little punch out for a minute. See how that gap finally caught up? We're going to keep going. All right, so the crankshaft bearing is out. Now this right here, I'm not going to be prying on the oil tank side. I'm going to come down here toward the very bottom and just give it a little bit of a twist. It's still wanting to be stuck. I'm not going to go ham with it, but let's just go in here with the punch. There it went. Very little effort. All right. That's in pretty decent shape, all things considered. That looks like it's been hot, but at the same time, the bearing is discolored. I think that's oil. All right, we're gonna go over here to the flywheel side half. Need to raise it up just a little bit. There it went. All right. Again, that looks like it has some sort of oil in there. The crank doesn't feel bad, and it normally would be like a way more discolored if it had been hot. Give me just a few seconds. All right, so that right there, I think looks quite a bit better. Yeah, I just knocked some of that crust off. I think it'll need another good scrub, but yeah, you can see all the grit that's coming off. Not even grit, it's like just oil or some sort of heavy residue. What I'm thinking may have happened, this thing may have gotten old, and it may have had some blow-by from the rings. It could also be that whoever ran it last used some really messed up oil or something like that, a really messed up oil ratio. I have seen that before as well. When you look at the bottom of your crankcase, it normally shouldn't look like that. Remember, a lot of like the big chunks, those are from me tearing it down because I probably should have pressure washed it, but I knew I was gonna actually bathe this thing. I didn't add anything. That is what the bottom of the crankcase looks like. So I don't know if this thing, that doesn't really seem like water. It seems more or less to me like oil. It's a very thin oil, but it's an oil. I would say either somebody put a really messed up mixture in there, or alternatively, it just really had a, they may have put the wrong fuel in it. It didn't score it up. It's not scored. They could have been doing like some 30-to-1 or something like that, like some old farmer oil mix, and then it just fouled itself out and then pretty much died after that. But next time you see this, it's going to be scrubbed. I will have taken the brake flag off, thoroughly washed every bit of this and the tank housing, and I'll be ready to come back and do a crankcase rebuild on it. I think this crank is good. We'll kind of see how it goes from there. Take it easy.